the headlines. President Putin says the West will be in direct conflict with Russia if it allows Ukraine to strike Russian territory with Western-made long-range missiles. Donald Trump is not taking part in a second presidential debate against his Democratic rival Kamala Harris. It's another small step as a billionaire businessman becomes the first non-professional astronaut to walk in space.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, Earth sure looks like a perfect world.
How a football competition between villages in China has captured the attention of the entire nation. And Taylor Swift sweeps up at the Video Music Awards, becoming the most decorated solo artist in the ceremony's history. Now, it was a big night on Wednesday for the music industry in New York, with a host of stars turning out for the MTV Video Music Awards, or the VMAs for short. Let's take a look at the main moments of the night. Megan Thee Stallion was a real hot girl as she hosted the show in a range of iconic outfits, including paying tribute to Britney Spears by recreating her VMA look from 2001 that featured her holding a python. The biggest winner on the night was Taylor Swift, who left with 7 prizes. That means she now has 30 trophies, surpassing Beyoncé's record set as a solo artist. In her acceptance speech, she urged her fans to register to vote.
Head of US Forces in Africa, General Michael Langley, has told the BBC that the US military will only cooperate with countries in the Sahel region once they return to democracy. American and other Western forces have in recent weeks withdrawn from Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad and Niger as the leaders of those turn to Russian support for their fight against violent Islamist forces. General Langley blames Russian disinformation for the souring of relations between the US and countries in the Sahel. Manhattan prosecutors have announced that disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein is indicted on additional sex crimes charges. The Associated Press reporting that prosecutors began presenting evidence to a grand jury last week that included up to 3 additional allegations against Weinstein. His lawyers have responded, saying they will defend whatever comes our way. The indictment, which lists the full charges, will remain under seal until Weinstein's arraignment on Wednesday. The European Central Bank, which sets policy for the 20 nations in the Eurozone, cut its main interest rate on Thursday by 1/4 percentage point to 3.5%. Like other central banks, the ECB increased rates to try and tame soaring prices. With inflation now close to the bank's 2% target, the cut was widely expected.
And just before we go, speaking of big nights, it's that time of year again. The Ig Nobel Awards are being given out, and I believe we can show you some footage of the awards there in Massachusetts. They're awarded to unusual areas of academic research that make people laugh and then think. The winner this year has gone to a Second World War project involved training pigeons to pilot bombs. It's called Project Pigeon, and it was awarded posthumously. He was able to teach to Professor Boris Frederick Skinner. He was able to teach pigeons to guide missiles with some success. It never got off the ground because of scepticism, because of the US military officials, but he stood by his research until the end.
Have you heard of the IG Nobel Prize?
No.
The IG Nobel Prize?
No.
OK, so the IG Nobel Prize is... it recognises irreverent accolades given for achievements that first make people laugh and then make them think.
Like
right?
what?
So, and at this awards ceremony, you have, like, real Nobel laureates giving speeches, but they have to give these 24/7 lectures. So these 24/7 lectures is they explain their subject in 24 seconds and then in 7 words. Right, so it's quite a quirky... I'm just kind of setting the scene for quite a quirky awards thing. But it is based in science and research. And there is a study that's come out of this now that has shown, and some Japanese scientists have found, that some animals absorb oxygen delivered via the rectum. So the headline here in The Guardian is, "Take a deep breath. A study shows that some mammals can breathe using their backsides." Right, so it's quite interesting. So you'd think, how on earth does this work? So what they've done is they've shown that mice, rats and pigs can absorb oxygen into the bloodstream when delivered via the rectum and support normal breathing. And the reason they're interested in this is they're interested because they did it during COVID times. And obviously respiratory problems were such an issue, and they were trying to find new ways of helping. So they found this out. They've also found out... Could you just turn around? Just for 1 sec. So, if you're in the northern hemisphere, scalp hair tends to whirl in a clockwise direction.
Oh, yes, yes.
You know, like water going down a plug hole?
Whereas other places...
Southern hemisphere, other way.
Well, can I add to that one little... Very quickly, 6G technology, 4G, 5G, 6G, just around the corner, apparently. It's better, but they've discovered that it will take too much power from your phone. It would use all the charge in about 30 minutes. And this is Eddie Ball, who is a reader in engineering at University of Sheffield, who's looking at 6G research, came up with a phrase that I've not heard before. He said that they're looking at 6G, working on it. How could they use it in technology? He said, what we've got at the moment, at present, is a solution in search of a problem. I've not really heard that phrase before. 6G, just round the corner.
Now, researchers say they've solved the mystery of the origins of the seismic signal that shook the Earth for 9 days last September. They've pinned it down to a massive landslide which caused a tsunami in a remote fjord in Greenland. The risk of these Arctic landslides is increasing because of climate change, according to scientists, as Victoria Gill reports.
A land continuously carved and moulded by vast glaciers. But in one fjord in the east of Greenland, a seismic event has transformed the landscape here forever.
So we're seeing here a sort of a simulation of how this seismic signal travelled around the world. When we run this, we'll start to see this wave.
This animation shows the signal that baffled scientists for 9 days in September of last year. The dots are seismic monitors around the world, picking up vibrations from something happening in Greenland. At the same time that scientists were puzzling over that, a team working in Greenland received a report of a large tsunami in the east of the country. These photographs show what caused it, a huge landslide into this fjord. Look at the mountaintop in this image taken before the event. And look at it afterwards. The top of the mountain is gone, collapsed into the fjord, taking part of the glacier with it. The scientists analysed the depth and shape of this narrow 200-kilometre-long fjord, and that revealed why the tsunami the landslide caused reverberated around the world for so long. The wave was essentially trapped.
The energy of that wave just can't escape. So that wave has to just keep bouncing back and forth, sloshing back and forth in the fjord. It just can't go anywhere. Never before has such a long duration sort of large-scale movement of water, over 9 days in this case, been observed.
Remote as it is, this is a location that cruise ships do visit. Fortunately, no vessels were in the area when the landslide happened. But scientists say the risk of these events is increasing with climate change. This glacier was holding up the mountain. Over decades, it melted and thinned, and eventually millions of cubic metres of rock simply collapsed. It's a destructive side effect of climate change that was felt around the world. Victoria Gill, BBC News.
Is it possible for a sport like football to lift a poor region? Well, that's what seems to be happening in the remote mountains of southwestern China, where a competition between villages has captured the nation. It's even boosted tourist revenue by nearly 75%. Our correspondent Stephen McDonald went there to meet the players and their fans.
These are the farmers, shopkeepers and students who've become the stars of the Guizhou Village Super League. A weekly grassroots spectacle which has drawn national attention largely through social media. It's free to attend, but a bit of a hike to get here. The mountains of Guizhou have been isolated for centuries, and until recently all they had was farming. Now poor communities are getting a boost from the millions of big city tourists who've come through in just over a year to watch the football.
It has improved our economic prospects, like for vendors where families have small businesses. It has increased their income.
Chen Yang is a hospital maintenance worker. After pulling an all-night shift, he's still in high spirits, preparing to run on for Dongmen Village in this year's final. His friend on the other team is the son of itinerant labourers. Wu Jinfu just finished high school, but he's been kicking a ball since he was 11.
When I started playing footy, I didn't expect us to have such an amazing football atmosphere.
That fans dress up in traditional ethnic costumes has added to the allure of the matches, played over many months.
When we watch the game, it's so exciting. We are really nervous. You feel your heart pumping. And when we win, we are so happy. We sing and dance.
And their teams certainly give it all.
The secret of the success here is the combination of football and local culture, all presented in a pretty raucous fashion. No wonder it's so popular, and it's all done in a pretty good spirit.
In the most important game of the year, Lu Jinfu scores twice, and his younger, faster Dongshang Village win the final.
My teammates and I have played together since primary school. We are like brothers.
But the second team also gets a prize.
We won 2 pigs. That's not bad.
And you wouldn't know from the party of the losers that they're not champions. To their neighbours, the players from Dongmen Village are still their heroes. And there's always next year. Stephen McDonald, BBC News, Guizhou Province.